Hi, I'm Kerry Lord from TOFT. This video forms part of a series to accompany the Edwards Crochet kits, patterns and books. In this video, I'm just going to talk a little bit about tension and why tension is so important when you're crocheting, not just to how much you enjoy working the stitches, but also to your resulting project once you've crocheted it. So tension is one of these things that remains a mystery to some of us, even after time. What I'm talking about when I'm talking about tension is how tight your stitches are. So tension is affected by lots of things. It can be mood, it can be the way you hold the yarn, but generally your tension can be two things, either tight or loose, and the resulting project will be very, very different dependent upon your tension. So here I have 3 Ed's Animals standard legs. They are all crocheted on exactly the same size crochet hook, which is a 3mm, but they are 3 very, very different tensions. So this one here is a very tight tension. Somebody who is maintaining a tight tension when they're crocheting their stitches. This one here is a very loose tension. And the one in the middle is just right. And so this video really should hope to clear up a little bit what you can do, what makes a right tension or a wrong tension, and what it means to the thing that you're making if you do get it slightly wrong. So a tight tension. I find people with a tight tension tend to find it harder to actually work their stitches. So if they are holding their yarn and their hook at a very, very tight tension, tighter than the stated suggestion, you'll be fighting your stitches a bit like this to try and hold it at a tight tension. It can be caused by a few things. So often beginners will have very, very tight tension because they're nervous about dropping the yarn or dropping the stitches or getting it wrong. So you'll find you're fighting the yarn like this in order to hold that tension really tight. Another thing that can cause tight tension is if you are a knitter or you've been taught by somebody who applies a lot of tension by wrapping the yarn around their hands. So I've seen a lot of people hold yarn in a different way. They'll be sometimes as complicated as this, where they're holding that yarn, wrapping it right around their hand. That'll help you maintain a really, really tight tension because basically there's no slack in your yarn. So that might affect it. If you're finding you're getting a really, really tight tension and you're not sure why, it might be caused by how much tension you've got holding on there on that side. On the other side of the spectrum is a loose tension, and a loose tension tends to be either people that are just a bit generally more relaxed, like maybe you're more used to it. I have a very, very natural loose tension. When I'm crocheting, I'm only holding my yarn just round that index finger there, and I will work my stitches really loosely like this. It's easy to put your hook in, it's really, really smooth. So my tension naturally is quite loose that I will work to rather than tight. What that will mean to your resulting crochet project is if you have a really, really tight tension, it'll not only be quite hard for you to work your stitches, but your resulting animal will tend to be quite stiff. So the fabric won't be as soft and supple, it won't drape or flow in the same way. Your animal's far more likely to end up looking a bit stiff and in position. If you've got a loose tension, it can actually be much worse, the kind of consequences of doing the whole lot with a loose tension. Number one is you will see the stuffing through these stitches. So because your stitches are so loose, if you see if I pull it a little bit here, you've got gaps in between your stitches, you're going to see your stuffing through those stitches, so you won't get as nice a finish as you want. The other real hazard of working on a loose tension is the fact that you might run out of yarn. So as you can imagine, when you've got a leg that's half the size of this one, this is going to take nearly twice as much yarn as it would do to do the small one. So that can be a real problem if you are working a kit that might be a bit tight in its yarn quantities, like a sheep, for example, where you're adding all those loops on at the end. If you're somebody that runs on a loose tension, you're very likely to struggle to make the whole project with the yarn inside that kit. So checking your tension is quite important to begin with. I think just to know that your resulting project is going to look really great, because I wouldn't want you to crochet the whole thing and then see that your stuffing was going to come through your stitches at the end. So this leg here is sitting right between the two. It's a standard Emma the Bunny leg, and it's about 8 centimetres in length from top to bottom. So if you start with a leg and you make that and just check that it's around 8 centimetres top to bottom, you'll know that your tension is about right. You're not going to be seeing the stuffing through your stitches, and you're not going to run short of yarn at the end. So if you do that leg and you find that your leg's really long or your leg's really small, what can you do to change your tension? One of the things that I mentioned is to do with how you hold that yarn, so to do with that positioning on your non-hook hand. If you're going to wrap it around several fingers, you'll find your tension will be much tighter than if you don't. Your other alternative is to change your hook size, and this is often the easiest one. I find that if I'm having to concentrate on either keeping my tension tight or loose, it's just not as enjoyable. I can't switch off in the same way when I'm following the patterns. So my best bet really is to swap my hook size. So just to give you an example, an Ed's Animal standard tension would recommend a 3mm hook, which is what this one, all three of these are worked on 3mm hook, but that's the correct tension for a 3mm. This person would probably want to work on a 3.5mm to achieve a leg that's this size. This person will probably want to work on a 2.5mm to work a leg that's that size. I myself, I actually work on a 2.5mm a lot of the time. I find that I know that I have a naturally loose tension, and so I compensate for that in the patterns by swapping down or up. If you're a beginner and you're new to TOFT kits, you won't know about that yet, so just persevere with what you've got. Just be aware that your tension does change day to day, mood to mood. If you've had a glass of wine, everything can affect the tension as you're going along, so just be conscious of it. If you feel like it's getting looser or tighter, try and tighten it up, or if in doubt, because it's consistently one way or the other, change your hook size up and down. So just to clarify with the yarn quantity and the way that tension can affect it, a standard Ed's Animal, so Emma the Bunny, which includes lots and lots of parts. She's got obviously her body, she's got 4 limbs, one of which you've seen already. She's actually got her head, and she's got her really long ears to add to that, and she would only be using 62 grams of yarn total to make her. So in a TOFT kit you are getting usually around 100 grams, and you will have some spare. That means that if you do have to remake a leg, you'll be able to if you are a beginner, but the difficulty is if you're going to have a tension that's right up on this kind of tension, you will struggle to get the yarn out of that, because the animal could take as much as 100 grams.